Welcome to the Vegan Family Kitchen podcast. And today it's the Vegan Italian Family podcast because I have a very special guest joining me today, all the way from Cambridge in the UK. It is Antonia Ricciardi. Lovely to see you, Antonia.
Hello, thank you for inviting me in your podcast.
It's awesome to have you. You are a plant-based chef with expertise in raw food, and you were born and you spent most of your life in Italy. And not only that, but you were close to nature, and your family, listen to this, guys, owned a restaurant in southern Italy. So she grew up breathing the passion for really good food. And I think everybody here is conjuring in their minds lovely ideas of what that might have seemed like in those days. Despite all that, she studied physics in university and then she worked in publishing and education. But her passion for healthy cooking has taken over her career now. In 2021, she enrolled in the Food Future Institute Cooking School of the American celebrity chef Matthew Kenny. She graduated just last October, a few months ago, and now she practices as a private chef in Cambridge, UK, and she is offering raw cakes. So I am very excited to learn everything I can from her today and to share those beautiful secrets with you. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. And yes, is exactly you describe very well my life and my choices, my passion for the healthy cooking.
Yeah, let's dig in. So I need to ask you about your food journey. Is it all as good as it sounds on paper? But no, just kidding. Just tell me about your food story, the story of food in your life.
Um, I was born in the south of Italy, and the in the south of Italy, food is really important because everything that we do, that we used to do, um, was about food. For example, during the summer, there are something important practice that my grandparents and my parents used to do. For example, homemade tomato salsa and other kind of things like um, uh, pickled vegetables like zucchini or aubergines, and we used to spend a lot of time during the summer in order to prepare food for the next season, because during the winter there are not many foods to use, and so is was really important to be ready with the right food for the next seasons. Yes, and when I was really young, my grandmother uh, um, was able to transmit me many things about food. I was lucky because both my grandmothers are really good in the kitchen. One used to work in the restaurant, and she works every day of her life in the restaurant, and I learned many things from her. And the other grandmother was really passionate for food too, and she knows many things like wild herbs and how to use wild herbs and so on. And I remember my auntie too, that was able to recognize a lot of spontaneous herb, and she used to prepare to make bread every single week in a different variety. For example, I remember the bread with walnuts and honey
Mm.
was great. Yes, I I had a lot of my memories are linked to food, and yes, is
Were they also growing the food? Did they have like a garden or even a farm?
Yes, yes. My grandmother has a garden, and she used to grow some kind of foods like vegetables, like peppers or beans, or other things like tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Yes.
Yes, obviously, and a lot of olive trees or fig trees, so fruits and other, and olive was present in in a very strong way in our kitchen, because
That sounds just beautiful. So you learned to cook. You started cooking with your family. You didn't learn after you moved
y-
out of your family's
yes,
home later.
I learned from them, basically observing them to cook, because I was not allowed to stay the near the fire, and I from them I learned how to cook, for example, pizza, or how to cook, or how to do homemade pasta, because um, was when I was really young, there was not enough shop in which you can buy pasta, and so we used to make pasta at home. Some old ladies used to make pasta every day, homemade pasta. So, for example, orecchiette or fusilli and so on every day. Yes,
It makes me think of the many Latin American, Mexican and other women who make tortilla every day.
yes,
It's the same idea. Or Indian families where they make roti every
yes.
single day. And now, there's actually a machine you can buy that you basically add just flour and water and it makes roti. And I know some people think it's a really terrible idea not to be making them by hand with love. Tell me a little bit. I'm curious about your transition to plant-based cooking, because I'm guessing that I'm having this idea that meat must have been treasured in many way, and possibly cheese also in the Italian cooking, though I'm guessing there also wasn't necessarily a whole lot of it, just because of cost and other things. But tell me about how you
Uh,
approached plant-based cooking a little bit later in life, maybe.
okay. My first approach was during the university, because I exactly during my fourth year in the university, in which um, I was studying about climate and so on, and I was really sensitive to environmental issues. And the other reason is because I am an animal lover, and so I decided to try to have a vegetarian diet. And it was a little bit a failure for me, because after months that I tried to follow a vegetarian diet, I I was not sick, but I was not full of energy, and so I decided to stop. But some years later, I was able to understand that my diet was not good, because I was a student, and at that time I didn't have a lot of time to dedicate to the cooking, and so I used to eat a lot of things, lot of food in cans like beans, or, for example, frozen food, and something like that, that is, in my opinion, not good. And so some years later, I decided to become vegetarian again, after after a visit with a nutritionist, then that gave me some advices in how to manage my diet in a better way. And I discovered that my diet some years uh, before was not good, was not balanced. So this is the reason, because it was so not so good for me. Not because was a vegetarian diet, but because I was not able to balance this diet in a properly way, and because I used to have a lot of processed food, and so I understand. I finally I understood the importance of to have fresh food, and not processed food. And after 3 years in the vegetarian diet, I decided to do a step forward in and becoming total. I would like to try. It was just an experiment, and I decided to try a completely vegan diet, because I I was not able anymore to use dairy, because of the impact of the on the animal life. It, I think that is the industry of the dairy, or the industry of eggs, is one of the worst things that our society has. They are hidden from our view, but I think that is terrible what happens. And so I decided to stop to eat every kind of food that comes from animal, and was just an experiment. But I am still in that experiment, so it was really successful. Yes.
That that sounds fantastic. I will ask you about the next step in a second, but I want to backtrack onto something you said, which I think shows the cultural divide to some extent between North America and Italy. When you mention, for you, canned foods and frozen foods, you see as more like processed food and less valuable. And when I think of processed food in the diet of the average North American, it's like canned foods, like canned beans are just so wonderful compared to the stuff that the vast majority of people are eating, right? So it's really, I think it shows the gift, the beauty of having had the upbringing of, growing up with growing your own beans and having your own fresh everything. It's just spectacular. I don't.
Yes.
It's yes, because when somebody tells me I'm going to eat canned beans, I'm like, great, you know,
Yes.
because compared to eating like hot dogs, this is amazing. So
Yes.
different kind of culture, right? But so I'm curious to understand what happened that you decided to make the step into becoming a chef yourself, because the whole time you've been cooking for yourself maybe, and you grew up in that environment, but how did it happen to you to decide, let's make this my life,
Mm,
my full-time job?
Probably it was the birth of my daughter, because when she was born, I me I and my husband decided to give her basically a plant-based um, diet, and we decided to have a consultation with a pediatrician and a nutritionist. And we were really lucky, because near our city there was a doctor, a woman, a doctor that had two. She was a nutritionist, and she was vegan, and she was a pediatrician too.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
Yeah.
so she was really able to give us some advices in how to grow your child in the best with a vegan diet. And so I started to prepare everything, because I didn't want to give to my daughter processed food, and I started to do everything at home, everything. And at that point, uh, I I tried different experiments, different kind of diet on my body. For example, I tried to avoid gluten for some weeks and so on, in order to understand what is the impact of some foods on your body. And I discovered many things. And I discovered, for example, that fresh food is like fruit or vegetables are really good for your health and for your energy level. And so I decided to study more about plant-based food, and to have many research in order to understand if plant-based food is good for a human diet. I know that sometimes it seems a little bit extremist, but I think that is probably in for the way in which we used to live now in the city, is the best thing that we can do, because it probably is a reaction to too much meat and dairy that we find in the supermarkets. I honestly, for me, was a reaction. I decided to become like completely plant based as a reaction. Um, I don't think that is a bad things to have sometimes a little amount of meat if you live in a place in which there are no other possibilities. For example, my grandparents, they used to have meat just on Sunday, because they have other kind of food. There was no necessity to have meat every day. But the modern diet is completely, I think that has no sense, because there is too much meat and too much dairy in our diet, and is no sense, in my opinion. Especially if you have other kind of food available, and you can eat better better things. But
Totally. Yeah.
yes,
I mean, there's a lot of people in North America, and I'm sure in the UK too, that have meat at pretty much every meal of the day,
yes,
and dairy or eggs, or dairy and or eggs at most
yes,
meals. And it's so much compared to what was even traditionally, like, even if, yeah, and I think some places in the world where they don't, like, if you live on an island and you can't grow wheat to make your own pasta, that's one thing, and you have to eat fish. But most people are not in that situation, and it's been
yes, exactly.
completely
Because
abusive.
yes, because we live in cities that in which we have every kind of food that comes from other parts of the world, that had long travels. I know that is not sustainable, but we have access to many foods. So I don't know why don't you try to have a diet that has more fruits or more vegetables. So.
That's just fantastic. I want to ask you, what do you think makes good vegan Italian food?
Oh, yeah, to make vegan Italian food is my basically my passion, because when during my life in Italy, I moved from Italy almost 4 years ago, but basically I spent most of my life in Italy. And in the last years, I had a lot of travels in different regions of Italy, and in different regions of Italy. And I was really interested in regional recipes, because even if Italy is very small, there are every region has a lot of difference, and different dishes, different recipes in their tradition. For example, I I noticed that in the south there is a lot of is very used. The vegetables are really used. If you go in Puglia, is amazing, because you will find every kind of vegetables you can imagine, and even something that you can't imagine, because they are trying uh, to rediscover the ancient um, variety. So is amazing. And in the north, there are that is the climate is a little bit more cold during the winter. They used to have a different kind of food, more meat and more dairy. But the interesting thing is that in every region you will find different recipes, and there are a lot of recipes that are vegan. So I love, for example, Umbria, that is in the central Italy, and they have a lot of variety of lentils in the mountain, and obviously a lot of recipes with lentils. They are really famous. Or for if you go, for example, in the uh, Sicily, you will find different kind of food and so on, and different recipes. So in my travels and in my experience, I try to discover all the recipes that were born vegan, but at the same time I try to transform the recipes that are not vegan in vegan. For example, the bolognese, that is very famous in the rest of the world. It's possible to substitute the meat with soy, or or with lentils. Is very good. You can substitute the meat in a very simple way.
So I don't come from an Italian family, but spaghetti bolognese was my favorite thing growing up. But I'm sure that it was not the kind that your grandmother, your nonna, would have approved of. So tell me, explain to me how to make a good vegan bolognese that feels authentic and good to you.
Okay. I think that the most important thing is to the base that is made of vegetables. You must use carrots, onion, and celery. You have to process in the process
Food processor?
in
Yeah.
the exactly in the food processor, or you can cut with a knife in a small dices. And then I think that a good tips is to use the white wine, and because of the fragrance of the wine is very good in the bolognese. And
Not
you
red
can
wine. I think we
you
used.
can use red. You can use red wine too. Is fine, but I think that the white wine is perfect in order to have
Okay.
a yes. And you can use some herbs. For example, oh, I don't remember in English how to say alloro. Oh no, is
Alloro.
yes, is oh I
I'm googling it. Loris.
yes,
Laurel.
probably
Laurel
yes.
leaves, right? The
Yes,
leaves you put.
exactly. They are some leaves in the. I think that they are really good in the when you if you put this in the vegetables. And the other thing that is good in the bolognese is to have a slow cooking, because it requires a lot of time in order to have the right consistency and the right fragrance,
Flavors,
flavors. Yes,
yes.
yes, yes. Is
What about mushrooms or I'm trying to think of other thing I would put in it. Garlic, mushrooms, are those things part of the picture at all? Or is it true bolognese just the, what do you
the
call,
true.
the French call it mirepoix. What is the word in Italian for celery, carrot, and onion?
We call soffritto.
Sofrito, yes. So
Yes.
other than the sofrito, do you add any other vegetables?
No, no, we don't had garlic, and
Oh, ouch.
I know, I know. We know. I have a auntie from Bologna, and
Where
she
bolognese sauce is
yes,
from, in
she
case
used.
somebody didn't.
Yes, I learned from her to how to do the from her husband, because my my uncle was very good in the kitchen, how to do the real bolognese. And honestly, he used a lot of meat, and at the end he used to put inside a little bit of butter. But in the south, when we make bolognese, we use olive oil. In the north, they use butter. So
Right.
probably the real bolognese, I think, is with a lot of meat, not so much tomato sauce, and a little bit of butter.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Let's backtrack here because you've just said not too much tomato sauce, and I'm confused because
yes,
for me, bolognese has
yes.
lots of tomatoes. So, so how much tomatoes? What kind of tomatoes should people use? And let's. I mean, I don't know about your grocery stores in Cambridge, but here in Canada, most of the year the tomatoes look really sad, obviously. Um, and also, how do you manage the meat part in the vegan version?
Mm, in I in the in the last period, I used to substitute meat with lentils. That could be, for example, green lentils, or black lentils are good too. And
Do you put
but
them in cooked or
cooked, yes,
dry? Okay, you put it cooked first.
yes, you must cook the lentils before adding in the bolognese. And yes, otherwise you can use, for example, portobello mushrooms instead of lentils, because they give a good consistency. And from from Food Future Institute, I learned to prepare bolognese with portobello mushrooms and a little bit of walnuts, because they give um, a bit of crunchy that is really nice, because remember the consistency of the meat. I think that is wonderful.
Yeah, the same as taco meat. Vegan taco
Mm.
meat is often made with a mix of lentils and walnuts, or even I've done it with chopped like really finely cauliflower and
Okay.
walnuts together. That the cauliflower wouldn't work in the bolognese, but yeah, mixing the walnut. It's funny because in meat there is that like not every bite is the same.
Yes.
I think that might be what the walnuts do. So, what about the tomatoes?
Tomato is I in the south we use a lot of tomatoes, because we have a huge amount of tomatoes, so we use a
Because you
lot.
don't know what to do with them.
Exactly, because
They
we
have
have
to go
too much.
somewhere.
Exactly. But from my uncle that he lived in Bologna, and his wife was from Bologna, I know that you must use a little bit of tomato. Is just a little bit to give the color, not too much. And yes, I know was a
Shock.
it was a shock to discover this. Yes.
So the result would be more. it wouldn't be exactly a sauce. Like it wouldn't be very, because I think of a sauce as quite liquid. But if you're not putting in too much tomatoes and you have those lentils, maybe the walnuts, the sofrito, it's not really saucy. Am I right?
Yeah, yes, you're right. I think that the best thing is to have probably the proportion is 1-1. For if you have, for example, one one uh, 1 kilo, 1 kilo of vegetables and lentils, carrots, celery, and so on. I will use 1 kilo of sauce, so
Okay.
half and a half, in my opinion, because I like the creamy bolognese. And the other bad news is that in Italy we don't use bolognese with spaghetti, but we use tagliatelle that are a similar kind of pasta, but is uh, larger.
Yes, it's
Yes,
flat. It's kind of like
yes, yes,
linguine or
exactly.
fettuccine.
Exactly. But if you go in Bologna, you will find tagliatelle. Tagliatelle is the best thing in order to have bolognese, not
Does
spaghetti.
does it have the edges, a little bit wavy edges? I don't know how to say
Yes,
that. So
yes,
it
yes.
catches the sauce, right?
Exactly. Is a large pasta, flat pasta. Large is perfect for bolognese. Yes.
Sounds good. And I'm thinking, I think in my mind I'm also visualizing doing something very similar but more like a mushroom ragu with
Hmm.
also the tagliatelle. I think that would be really good. So
Yes. Yes.
that sounds it. Thank you for sharing this. And I have to say, here in Vegan Family Kitchen, I encourage people to cook things whichever way they want. And if they want more tomatoes, then go for it if that's what
Yes.
it takes. And, I love garlic because it's very healthy. But at the same time, I get so inspired when I hear about how things have been done for centuries. And food is evolving and changing all around. That's just fabulous. Tell me a little bit about your foray into raw food and especially raw cakes. I have seen some beautiful pictures of food you have created for events and for people. Tell me a little bit about how that came about for you.
I discovered the raw food many years ago during some travel to probably I when I went to Australia. I went near not Brisbane, but in another city, and I think that there they are very very passionate about healthy food. And I discovered there this kind of raw food of raw cake was about 10 years ago. And when I came back to Italy, I decided that I have to learn more about raw cake. But I never find I never found some recipe that was good in order to have the right consistency or the right taste, because sometimes the in the recipe they use a lot of um, coconut oil and so on. The one of the first recipe that I tried and was really good was one recipe from the course of Matthew Kinney, the Food Future Institute, because they have a section. In their course they have a section that is dedicated to raw food, and for me was wonderful. When I tried the recipe, I felt in love, and I decided that I need to discover more about raw food, especially because of the impact on the body. That is great because, for example, if you eat, I noticed that if you eat raw food in for lunch, you had a lot of energy. You have sometimes I used to do some crackers, raw crackers, and raw cheese, and I eat this food with, for example, the fermented food like kimchi, and is wonderful. I feel really, really full of
Energetic.
energy.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And I discovered was I was in my life I never was good in the with cakes, because I
Baking.
remember, yes, in baking, my experiment were a failure every time.
Oh no.
And yes, and so when I started to do raw cake, they were fantastic, and I was incredible. So I decided that probably was they chose me. So and I decided to go on, because I really love to prepare, to make vegan cake. In my opinion, they are simple. Yes, there are a lot of ingredients inside, but when you know the ingredients, and if you are organized, I think that they are more simpler than baked cakes, because you're able to repeat. With baking, no, because sometimes the cake are tall. Other time, if you have different ingredients, they are mm,
Flat. Yeah.
flat. Yes, so, or they are not cooked in a good manner. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
yes, I decided that the best thing is to prepare raw cakes. And I think that they are very they are very close to my philosophy, because um, you can make a raw cake from very simple ingredients. So you need nuts, or you need coconut oil, um, coconut sugar, and some very simple ingredients that you can keep in your house. And uh, you don't need to buy, for example, butter or other kind of oil that you must keep in the fridge. They are really, really simple to make from from simple ingredients. So
I am so jealous of the people of Cambridge that are now able to order cakes from you, and raw cakes in particular. Because yes, you say it's simple, and I also had Crystal Bonnet on the podcast a few months ago, and she's also very enthusiastic about it. And for me, at this stage of my life, making raw cakes is just like one too many things that I can't engage with. But I'm so delighted that you're offering this. Tell me, give me one example. If it's my birthday and I'm in Cambridge and I want a raw cake for celebrating my life, what would it look like? What would be in it?
I think that probably one of the best cake is the raw cheesecake, that is with, with a layer of cashew and fresh fruit like strawberry or other kind of berries. I think that is the best one. It's really simple, and is very tasty. I love Crystal Bonnet book. She was able to give me many ideas in how to prepare cakes. And I love one of her cakes, that is the avocado key limes, is wonderful, because
Wow.
yes, is the taste is great. And there is this crust that is made of coconut and almonds, is fantastic. And is more lighter than is really light, probably because is used the avocado and the lime. It's fresh, and it's wonderful. Yes.
That sounds delicious. I'm a chocolate kind of person, but I would sign up for that birthday cake any day. Tell me finally, just to wrap up a little bit, because again, the people of Cambridge, very lucky, can hire you as their private chef, whether it's for home cooking, or I know you've also done some catering for events, and the plating was just beautiful. And by the way, I want to say also that the students of the University of Cambridge, not the whole university, but the students have voted to have all plant based food
I
at their
know.
functions. And that is just so beautiful. And they have one more reason to hire you as a caterer. So that sounds so awesome. But tell me if you have any tips for people who are listening to this, who are home cooks, who don't have the capacity to have a wonderful private chef such as yourself. How can they make their food more healthy, more flavorful, and without getting too complicated?
Okay, I think that in Italian food you can find many recipes that are really simple, are simple for children too. Because I remember that one of the first things that I was able to learn was how to prepare, how to make pasta. So, for example, one idea is to just to prepare pasta with tomato and basil, or an homemade pesto is really simple to do in a vegan version too, because you can use for instead of cheese, you can use, for example, oh, I I don't remember in this the substitute of the cheese that
Nutritional yeast, is that what you mean?
nutrition, exactly. You can
Yes.
use a nutritional yeast, and it's perfect. Homemade pesto, I think that is a really nice thing to start to have a simple Italian Italian dish, or basically another yes, another simple recipe is pasta with tomato and basil, and what else, or you can learn to cook lentils or other kind or beans and so on. There are easy recipe, for example, from Tuscany. I know a recipe whose name is uh, the name is fagioli all'uccelletto, and they are beans with sage and garlic and a little bit of tomato, and they are very simple to make, but they are really tasteful. Or you can try to use herbs, because in Italy we use a lot of herbs and garlic, but herbs like basil, or parsley, oregano, or rosemary. For example, you can make potatoes with the herbs. They are my customers usually are when I prepare for them this kind of potatoes with all the herbs. They are enthusiastic. And it's very simple, because you just have to cut the potatoes and add a lot of herbs like thyme and rosemary and oregano is very good. And I put a little bit of garlic, uh, garlic slice, or garlic in the with its skin is really good, because
Oh,
you can
I've
put
never done
some.
that.
Yes, I you can do this. You can do these potatoes with these herbs, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and garlic bulb in their skin. You can put
Okay.
in on the tray, and then when they are ready, the smell is wonderful. And oregano is I think that is the key.
So do you eat the garlic skins?
No,
Or do you
I
have
don't
to
eat.
squeeze them out?
No, you can use just in the tray, and then you can put off. But the
Oh,
smell is very good. I think that garlic and oregano are mm, are really really good. Otherwise, another recipe that I know, because every region has different way to do the same thing. And for example, in the market, that is the region of my husband, they used to prepare potatoes with rosemary, olive oil, and black peppers. A lot of black peppers, and they are
nice.
yes, they are nice.
Maybe one last question. What is your client's favorite thing that you cook for them?
Probably is the a lot of people likes the vegan version of frittata, of Italian frittata, that
Oh,
usually is made with eggs. But I have a recipe with chickpeas flour that is great, because in Italy we have, in Tuscany, the there is a recipe that we call cecina, cecina, that, and you can use this buttered of chickpeas and water, with a little bit of um, so baking soda,
oh
in
yeah.
order to, yes, and is really good in order to prepare something similar to frittata. And
Like a like an egg pie kind of thing, but with
exactly like an
chickpea
egg pie.
flour.
Exactly. And for example, in Naples, they used to do frittata pasta, because when you have some pasta that is
Oh yes.
from the lunch, in order not to throw away, they do frittata, pasta frittata. And I try to do this with chickpeas flour, and is really really nice. Is wonderful.
That is a great idea. I'm going to try that this weekend for
Yes,
sure.
I can I can share the recipe with you. I can give you the exact amount of
I
chickpeas,
would
flour, and water.
I would love to see that, and I can put it in the show notes as well for everyone who's listening. I always I feel like I need to put my chickpea flour in a place where I see it more and I remember to use it. I love making those thin, like galettes, crepes thing. There's an Indian name for them. Indian cuisine has those very thin chickpea flour little crepes that are delicious. But that sounds like another great way to use it.
It's not parota, no.
Yeah, I don't.
Probably
I
okay.
we'll look it up and we'll put it in the show notes. And I want to thank you so much for being here today and sharing your knowledge so generously. And if anyone happens to listen to this and they are in Cambridge or not too far from it, and either they want a raw cake, and by the way, they have to invite me, I'll like make the trip over to come and have a piece of cake with them, or they would like to retain your services if you have time as a private chef, how can they get a hold of you? What's the right
Um,
way to contact you?
yes, I have a website. You can find me by my Instagram page. Probably is the most simple way. And on my Instagram page, there is the link to my website, and so in- by the website you can contact me. Every people interested can contact me. Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I will put that in the show notes. And again, thank you for being with me today. Or I hope rather, that at some point in the not too distant future, I can be a little mouse in your kitchen and learn so much from you and watch you cook. I think um, you have so much fabulous knowledge to share, and I'm glad you're doing it the plant based way. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for inviting me, and to give me the possibility um to spread my passion for plant-based food and Italian recipes. Thank you so much.